"YN, what is this, Mark? Why did you call me?" she said in a frightened but sturdy voice. "Mark, ooh, baby girl, you aren't scared? Are you?" he said, smirking. "YN, just get to the point or else." YN was abruptly cut by none other than her crazy ex-boyfriend Mark. "Mark, or else what, baby girl?" he said, now standing from his seat. "YN, tell me what you want or else let me go." "Mark, I never stopped you, baby." YN cut him as she was running low on patience. "YN, can you get to the—" "Mark, but now I will stop you. Forever. With me. Until all the very end," he said, smirking. "YN, Mark, that's never going to happen. I'm married already," she said, stuttering, fear clearly reflecting in her eyes. "Mark, oh, baby, don't worry about that, Kim, I'll handle him. You just come with me," he said, holding YN's hands. YN flinched with Mark's sudden touch and stood up in reflex. Freeing her hands from him, she ran outside the busy cafe and was now walking back to her home where her husband awaited her. YN had walked for a while, and now the loud streets had been replaced by rather silent but empty ones. Her pace increased with each increasing step, and she was making her way towards her house. In a swift movement, someone swung YN around and pinned her to the side of the street with a dagger piercing into her neck. It was Mark. He held the dagger by her neck, and it was merely minutes before he would have slit her throat. "Mark, be mine or die." YN's eyes brimmed with tears, but she didn't cry. She instead answered back. "YN, I am never betraying him. Never." Mark pressed the dagger more into her neck, causing her to hiss as some blood started dripping down her neck. "Mark, what's the use of this loyalty if you don't love him but me, YN?" He still held the dagger piercing into her flesh. "YN, ah," she hissed in pain. "Mark, right, this is exactly what you'll get if you'll stay with him. Nothing but pain. YN, I don't care about that. I just know that I'm gonna be his until my soul would leave my body," she answered boldly, while her then white shirt had now already been painted red due to the blood flowing down her neck. "Mark, he doesn't love you. Why do you wanna be with him?" "YN, 'cause I love him. I do." It fell all silent except for YN's heavy breaths, who were threatening to fade forever. "Mark, then get ready to die. If I don't get you, no one does." With that, Mark slowly increased his force on the dagger, giving YN immense pain. She closed her eyes tightly and reminded herself of all that she encountered in the past few weeks. Memories of past, memories with her husband, memories with the people she loved, flowed into her mind as she savored the beautiful ones, even though they were a very few to count. She remembered how she crossed paths with her mother-in-law, who chose her for her son, Kim Taehyung. She remembered how Taehyung had his mouth wide open when he saw YN for the first time on the altar in her stunning wedding look. She remembered how he helped her from falling due to her heavy gown and carried her bridal style. She remembered how he never talked to her too much, but never ate anything which wasn't made by her. She remembered how even though her husband was always cold to her, he picked up the whole house on his head when YN cut her finger accidentally while chopping vegetables. As YN was reminiscing her past with Taehyung, a chuckle left her lips, making Mark extremely stupefied. "Mark, what in the world is there to laugh about right now?" YN opened her eyes and felt a sudden boost of confidence flowing in her as she realized that she couldn't die. She couldn't die before telling Taehyung how she felt for him. She knew that if she'll try to save her life even once, she may survive, but if not, she's anyways going to die. "Mark, what in the world is there to laugh about right now, huh? YN, your mistake to think that I'll go with you," she shouted, and with a sudden jolt, 𝚑𝚘 kicked Mark between his legs, causing immense pain in his crotch, because of which Mark's grip on the dagger weakened, giving 𝚑𝚘 the chance to run away just as she did. Mark quickly held her sleeve in an attempt to stop her, but not giving a f about it, she ran and ran, as a result of which her sleeve came torn off. That didn't affect her, as all she wanted was that she had to tell Taehyung how she felt for him. This time, however, instead of running towards her house in the quiet, she rather ran towards the city, as she may get help from there. 5 minutes passed and she had reached the bridge which connected the city to the forest. Almost no energy was left in her when she heard Mark shout behind her, "Mark, 𝚑𝚘, you be." But this time, not only did 𝚑𝚘 hear that voice, but also another man who was on the other side of the bridge, just a little away from their vision. That man increased his pace at the mention of his wife's name, more likely at the mention of his wife's name in this way. Taehyung ran towards the bridge. Hearing Mark, 𝚑𝚘 ran with heavy steps, because she had no energy left anymore, but she ran. And by God's grace she ran into the person she yearned to see until she died. 𝚑𝚘, Taehyung. Her eyes filled with tears of joy. Taehyung, 𝚑𝚘? What happened to you? He looked at 𝚑𝚘 worried, his once cold eyes now reflected nothing but pure concern. 𝚑𝚘, Taehyung, the cut on her neck was paining strongly, listen to me. And that was when Taehyung noticed the cut on her neck, the blood on her shirt and her torn sleeve. Taehyung, what happened? Who the hell dared to do this? His eyes now reflected anger, but the concern was still present. No, 𝚑𝚘, wait, let's go to the hospital first. Come. Taehyung started taking 𝚑𝚘 towards his car, but 𝚑𝚘 stopped him. 𝚑𝚘, Tae, listen to me. Taehyung was panicking. Tae, listen. 𝚑𝚘 held Taehyung's cheeks in her hand and looked into his eyes. Taehyung, what did you call me? His voice was soft and fragile. 𝚑𝚘, I love you. Taehyung, huh? 𝚑𝚘, I love you, Tae. Taehyung's eyes brimmed with tears, more likely tears of joy, although 𝚑𝚘 was unaware that those tears were of joy. 𝚑𝚘, Tae, I love you so much. 𝚑𝚘's body no longer had strength and was about to fall, but Taehyung held her strongly. 𝚑𝚘, I love you and I will always love you. I didn't know how or why, but I fell so hard for you that there was no returning back from there. 𝚑𝚘, I didn't fell for you once, I fell in love with you with each movement of yours. She smiled brightly. I know you don't feel the same, but I love you with all my heart. I hadn't realized it earlier, but now when Mark had held that dagger up my throat, I realized that the beautiful moments of my life are all because of you. 𝚑𝚘, the time you scolded everyone in the house when I cut my finger, the time you helped me from falling in my wedding gown, the way you were looking at me at the altar, she chuckled at the memory. The way you only eat the food I cook. I just love you. I love you. 𝚑𝚘's breath hitched and she fainted, closing her eyes. Taehyung, 𝚑𝚘? His eyes grew big. Why 𝚑𝚘? No! Not at all. He gulped. I'm gonna kill that Mark. Saying that, Taehyung held 𝚑𝚘 in his arms and ran to his car. The next morning. Taehyung, Doctor, she's awake. Hearing him, the doctors quickly made way into the room where 𝚑𝚘 was lying with some bandages around her neck. The doctor examined 𝚑𝚘 carefully while she came back to her full senses. Doctor, she should be perfectly fine now, Mr. Kim, just that the wound will take some time to heal. You can take her home by the evening, until which we'll keep her under observation just in case something happens. Taehyung, all right doctor, thank you so much. Doctor, no problem Mr. Kim. He left. Taehyung now turned to 𝚑𝚘 and sat beside her while holding her one hand in his hands. YN was looking at him as to how she will face him now that she has confessed her feelings but he doesn't love her. It was while watching him that suddenly she saw tears flowing down Taehyung's cheeks. YN, soft voice, "Hey!" Wiping his cheeks. "Why are you crying?" Taehyung sobbed and finally spoke. "Taehyung, you can't leave me like that, okay? How could you think of dying?" He spoke with a pout while his nose got red. YN tried to sit up and Taehyung helped her too. YN, "How does it matter, hun?" She was crying too. Taehyung, "'Cause I love you, Pabo. You spoke so much of our relationship, you said I only eat food cooked by you, I care for you and we've been happy, so how can you say I don't feel the same as you?" He spoke pouting. YN's eyes widened and her voice cracked. YN, "Really?" Taehyung, "Yes, idiot." YN started crying loudly while smiling too. Taehyung, "You're crying or laughing?" he asked smiling. YN, "I love you, I love you, I love you." Taehyung, "I love you too, Wiffy." Taehyung attached his forehead to YN's and the couple lived happily ever after.